friends, thanks for joining me. It's Morag here and I have another video for you using the April kits, and the kits are just so stunning with the pretty colours, and I shall also be using the April colour kit and these amazing stamps that you'll find in the shop right now. So for my layout I intended to use lots of measuring tapes. I'd got the title in my mind, Love Beyond All Measure, and I was going to use the measuring tapes then as a background. So what I wanted to do initially was lay those measuring tapes, as you can see, along the back and then put my photo on top. So best laid plans go awry in my case. So I set about adding some colour to my background. So I'm using white cardstock, it's quite thick. There's no gesso on there, so it's just literally thick white card. And I'm using a little itty bitty roller, a brayer, just to apply some colour to the background. And I like the effect the brayer has because you can be more linear, if that's the right word for it. So you can go along in rows or columns. And I just found it easier for me to work front to back. But as you can see, I am mixing two colours together. So these are the inks that came in previous colour kits this year. And I have used a colour called 16 Candles, which is the pale lilac colour, and also a colour called It's a Girl. Now, I have to confess, when I saw the inks, I was like, yeah, I don't really need inks. I've got lots of inks. I am in love with these. The colours are so pretty. And when I stamped with the inks on my last layout, it was one of my favourite layouts ever. And then watering them down like this and applying them with the brayer has created such a pretty background. The colours are just divine. And it's a shame because, you know, it really doesn't pick it up very well compared to real life. So I'd previously stamped the measuring tape out. And again, these are the new stamps that are in the shop from this month. I can highly recommend the stamps. They stamp beautifully. You know, they're really good quality, deep stamps. And what you'll find is that these are the things that you'll keep in your stash and you'll want to use them again and again. So I've used my inks a lot and I wanted a bit more colour, so I've just turned to the one of the previous shimmers that we've had called Cotton Candy, and I'm just going to use that because it's just a bit quicker with colouring those tape measures. And I went to all that effort and only used one of them in the end. So I'm just going to brayer on some lilac, and really you could use any method. You could actually just blend ink onto the tape measures in the same way. So as I say, in the end I only used one of them because I went off in a completely different direction to my plan. So the thing I'd say with these ink pads, they have a very, very soft pad. Compared to my other ink pads that I have that have quite a firm pad, I found these to be very, very soft. So it is possible to overuse them, so by pressing down too hard, so you'll release more ink than is necessary. So when you first get these inks, do try them out. And have a little test, but just be very gentle with them and you'll find the ink transfers beautifully. So also released this month is this beautiful distressed text stamp, and as you can see it has, you know, all the distressing built in, and it's quite a large stamp, so about A6. I'm using it unmounted because I just want a little bit of text and texture onto my background. And I'm using the same colour as I did on the background, so it's more tone on tone, which is the 16 Candles, the pale lilac colour. So I've put some of the texture down, and then I'm going to go back in with my tapes and just see how that looks. Now for me, I think it was more the fact that I think I should have stamped it in a lighter ink, so rather than black ink, if I'd have stamped it in grey or just a slightly less bold colour. But then also running through my mind is I've created this beautiful background and I'm now going to cover it all up. So I did want to incorporate some pattern paper. One of my favourite ways is to tear the background and then backfill it with pattern paper. So the other thought I was having, should I put those measuring tapes under that instead of the pattern paper, so on the right hand side there, and I think that would have looked really cute, and I would have probably gone that way. That was where I was thinking. Or shall I double layer it with some of that floral paper as well? So whilst I was deciding, I just was trimming down the background paper. It was just a scrap from my previous layout. And then I went to measure to cut it back into 12 inches. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, that just looks really great with a very small gap between the two. So hence the change of mind and just going in a completely different direction. So it was kind of just a bit of serendipity, I think, as to my change of direction. So in order to make everything match up, I am going to need to add some of the same colour as I did on the left hand side. So whilst I'm thinking about what to do, I'm going to cut out some of those flowers from the paper. It's always my go-to when I need some thinking time, and I do like a bit of fussy cutting. There is a die that fits over this pattern paper, or at least the large cluster. I do end up fussy cutting out some smaller clusters as well, to support my theme. And there were lots of flowers in the kit too, but I just took a hankering to that particular flower cluster. Because when you look at the flower cluster, there is some text detail on there which ties into my background very nicely. So just like before, I am now using the brayer just to add colour to that right hand side. So I'm concentrating more on the right, so that there'll be a white gap between the two pieces effectively. I think the trick is with this technique is to leave the white space, to try and cover it all up. It's very, very easy to do anyway. So one thing I did find, because the ink was quite wet, my papers did warp, or my background paper did warp. So what I tend to do is put it under my desk mat to try and keep it flat while I'm working on something else. So to take it up another notch, I'm going to use the colour kit, and the stencil's really pretty. It's got tiny little flowers and leaves design, and it just I've used it with the texture paste that came with the April colour kit. Let me just find out the name, as I've forgotten. See, right, it's a glacier paste from Nuvo. And this colour is called Pixie Wings. Oh, how cute is that? And it's a kind of a lilac-y colour, but when it dries, it goes very, very shimmery, like almost silver in appearance. It's very soft, so you do need to let it dry for quite a long time before you can touch it again. I've made that mistake. You could dry it with a heat gun, but I tend to leave mine to dry naturally. So what I found was after letting it dry the previous day, I've come back to my layout, started putting things together and realised my film didn't record. So we've missed a tiny little bit, but not too much, to be honest. But what I did that was missing is I've used the stamps, the mixed media stamps from the March release, and just added some black splatters. If you've seen my video before, I did mention that those new mixed media stamps are my absolute favourite, and I'm certainly no expert when it comes to mixed media, so I find those stamps will just be my go-to from now on. And I particularly like the tiny splatters because I can now add black splatters to my background and never have to worry about getting it on my photo again. So I don't know if you're like me, but that is a regular occurrence in my world. So just to be able to stamp them onto the page with no fear of getting it everywhere, then definitely get those stamps. They are the best. So whilst I was rabbiting, I've made a cluster at the top of the page there. I've used one of the chipboard frames from the main kit, as well as a fussy cut tag from one of the main kit papers, and then is a fabric journal piece, which I think is in the embellishment kit. And I was going just for different textures and shapes. And I really love how that's turned out because it does give you, I like to overlap things with different shapes and so on. So I have fussy cut some more of the flowers from that paper. And as I mentioned, it has very fine text on top of those flower clusters. And I really like that tying in with the text from the background. I think for me the important thing was to keep the text horizontal. So sometimes the flowers would be upside down, so it was a bit fiddly to work out their best placement. So I've added some ribbon from my stash. It is some vintage sari ribbon, and I'm just loving that. But it's quite broad, so I was just trying to squish it together and glue it into place on my background. And it is a little bit fiddly to do that because it keeps wanting to pop off. Maybe if I'd dampened it first, it would have been a little bit more pliable and a little bit easier to put into place. But as it happens, with a bit of patience, it did finally stick where I wanted it to go. So I'm just going to add a few more splatters there because, of course, I'm covering most things up. And I seem to remove things and never seem to go back in the place where I intended. Always the way with me. I don't know if you can see down the bottom right hand corner there, but there is a little die cut that says the best part of today was you, and it's like a barcode. That's just so adorable. So I'll put it in where you would have a product code on an item, so down the bottom right. So I did want a big title, so it's going to say Love You Beyond All Measure. Those alphas are from the main kit, and the small alphas come with the Pocket Life kit. Now this month was 2 shades of yellow, and because I've gone very monochromatic for my page, I've actually turned to the stickers that we had in last month's kit in March. And I love how the stickers and embellishments can flow from one kit to another. That's just really clever, being able to mix and match. But I do love these little tiny puffy alphas. They're just so handy to have because I do like a long title every now and then. And it's just very nice to be able to mix the sizes like this. I did have to make this very fast because it did take a little while to get everything straight. But I really love how it's turned out because it's completely not what I expected or what I had intended, but nonetheless I love the mixed media elements, and it's just very, very unique. So I've just added a few Nuvo drops you saw there, also from the colour kit. And I hope you have enjoyed this layout as much as I have. You can see there the glimmer from the texture paste and that text on the background, and it's just all come together so beautifully. So I do hope you'll try things out too. Do go and check out the website and grab your colour kit if there's one still available, because it's a fantastic way to build up your stash and something you'll use again and again. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care now. Bye.